Hello and welcome to Centre Pass, your weekly video podcast of the ANZ Championship. Dan Ryan, your host here. It's now time to meet a very special guest for this week's episode, none other than Melbourne Vixens and Australian Diamonds midcourter, Renae Hallinan. Renae, welcome along. Lots to talk about today.
Plenty to talk about. Really pleased to be here, Dan, and looking forward to hearing all the netball news.
Well, what we'll do today is we'll review the competition in round 5 so far. We'll also have a look at round 6 of the competition. We'll talk about the comeback of Julie Corletto. We'll also discuss a surprise coaching move by Jane Woodlands-Thompson to play Carla Borrego in goalkeeper. We'll also preview Netball's Festival of Stars coming up this weekend. All the news as well. But Renae, let's start by reviewing round 5 of the competition. Some big games, but you started off the round in Melbourne. You played your first home game of the season against the Fever and a record-breaking win for you guys.
Yeah, look, Dan, to be able to run out there in front of our home crowd, family and friends was fantastic this weekend, and obviously it was a great game for us. We were able to get all 12 players on the court, everyone putting great performances out there and having Julie Corletto back.
You won by 31 goals, which is your biggest win ever by an Australian franchise. Were you surprised at all by the result?
Yeah, look, we were, and I said after the match, I don't think that the scoreline really reflected the match. Fever obviously are always very tough opponents to come up against, but we certainly went into that game wanting to stamp our authority and put our best foot forward in all 4 quarters, and I think that's probably the most consistent netball that we have put together so far.
You mentioned you played all 12 players. Tegan Caldwell was one of those players who got her first taste for the year. She got a pretty handy knock to the eye late stages in the match. How has she come up after that injury?
Yeah, Tegan is fine. She's been left with a bit of the bruising on the eye. Looks pretty nice, but all the swelling and stuff's down. She trained last night and trained really well, so she's fine.
We spoke to your opponent, Shea Bolton, last week. Of course, there was 2 New Zealand umpires officiating your match, which is the new initiative that the ANZ Champs have put into place. How have you found that, I guess, as a thing moving forward for the league, and how was the umpiring in Saturday's game?
Yeah, look, I think this is a fantastic initiative for the league and for the umpires. I think it really bridges that gap between the differences in the New Zealand umpires and the Australian umpires. I would have to say in Saturday's game I didn't even notice the difference. I thought the umpiring was fantastic. You would never have known that they were New Zealand umpires, which is a really positive thing for the initiative and for the league.
I guess it helps you guys too, considering you play the Magic next week, which will have 2 New Zealand umpires officiating there. Let's now have a look at the scores from round 5 of the competition. You guys, of course, knocked off the Fever 70 goals to 39. The Adelaide Thunderbirds went down to the Queensland Firebirds 64-42. The Magic, in a surprise loss, the Mystics getting up by 1 goal there. The Southern Steel 50-goal winners 44 over the Pulse. And then in Sydney on Monday night, the New South Wales Swifts 54 winners over the Canterbury Tactics 45. Renae, let's talk about that Magic Mystics game. It was one of the games of the season so far. The Mystics got up by a goal. How did you find it?
I certainly did think that this game was not only the match of the round, but certainly the season so far. I think Mystics for the last couple of years have been that team that have been talked about that probably should push for finals and be up there in those New Zealand teams. Very pleased that they were able to knock off Magic. It wasn't the nicest and cleanest game to watch, but I think that's one of the fantastic things about Mystics. It's never say die until that last whistle, and it was the last whistle that they won.
Certainly was. The Mystics have never ever beaten the Magic until that game. Interesting, Maria Tutaya started the game on the bench. She's their Silver Fern star. They opted to go with Megan Dean. What did you think of that coaching decision and obviously Tutaya's performance in the end?
Look, I think that's a real luxury that the Mystics do have in that forward line now. They've got Latu, Tutaya and Den who they can throw in there. Tutaya, she's just getting better and better with leaps and bounds, and now I think she's shown that Commonwealth Games performance certainly wasn't a one-off. She came on and shot those long bombs and the goals that counted when they needed to. I think that's just the way the ANZ Championships is going to run now. I think most teams are going to try those different lineups, rest some legs when they can, and then Tutaya was able to come on and do her job when she was needed.
Let's talk about Catherine Latu for a second. She well and truly got the better of Jiva Mentor when you guys played her in round 4. She probably got the better of Casey Williams when it mattered last week as well. How do you find Catherine Latu as a player?
I'm going to go out on a limb, Dan, and I'm going to say that I think that Catherine Latu is one of the best, if not the best, goal shooter in the competition at the moment. I just think she's such a strong target to have down there. She's so accurate and is quite a good moving goaler as well. So quite scary for the other teams in the league, but she is certainly coming from strength to strength and is still quite young. So look out.
This Mystics team beat your side, the Vixens, by 2 goals in round 4. Where do you think this Mystics team stands? Do you reckon they're going to make not only top 4, but do you reckon they can potentially push for a top 2 spot?
Oh, I certainly think that they've got the potential to do that. They need to put, obviously, that consistent season together. They've had a fantastic start to the season. Once they start playing their double headers, I think that's when we'll really see the true colours of that team come through. But I think with the amount of silver ferns that they do have in that group and the young ones that are coming through and putting together great performances, they've got every chance to be title contenders. They've just got to put that consistent netball together.
Another game worth touching on over in New Zealand was the Southern Steel's second win of the season up against the Central Pulse. The Pulse led by 8 goals at quarter time. They couldn't sustain it. They were down at half time. This Pulse team just doesn't seem to know how to win. What's going on with the side?
Yeah, look, I mean, it's hard to say, but I do think that that 8-goal lead that they did have at quarter time was due to the Steel having so many of those little basic errors. And once they injected Natasha Chocolate into the game, which was fantastic to see her back from injury, I think she just added strength in both defence and attack for the Steel, and they were able to come over the line.
Well, she certainly did add a extra spark into that mid-court, Natasha Chocolate. Great to see her back. Let's now take a look at the competition ladder after 5 rounds of the competition so far. So after round 5, the ladder looks like this. The Queensland Firebirds, Renae, remain as the only unbeaten team in the competition in first place.
Yeah, they're very impressive, Dan, and we meet them in a few weeks, so hopefully we can knock them off that perch. 2
New Zealand teams there, the Magic and the Mystics in second and third. The Vixens rounding out the top 4. The Swifts, notice them, they're sitting in 5th place, but they'll be looking to strike when they play 2 games next round.
Yeah, certainly. The Swifts, the Thunderbirds and the Steel all sitting on only 2 wins, so an important round for all of those teams this week.
A couple of big stories came out of the ANZ Championship in round 5. None more so than if you're a netball fan to see the return of Julie Coletto. Renae, she's a good mate of yours. She's your teammate. She's your Australian teammate. How good was it to see Julie Coletto finally back out on court?
Oh, look, I think the crowd told the story when Julie Coletto put that bib on and ran out onto court. It was just fantastic to see her big smile run out there again, and she's fit, she's strong, and she's certainly ready to play some really good netball. So a fantastic thing for us as a Vixens lineup, and obviously the Vixens defensive lineup, to be able to throw her in there and have those different options through the wing defence and goal defence.
I guess a lot of people don't really know the severity of the knee injury that she had. In 16 months, she had 3 operations, 2 arthroscopes, one on each leg, one on each knee, basically just to clean out some floating cartilage. But then it also happened that she had a patella realignment. So they moved the kneecap 2 centimetres over to the right to get her tracking properly. What she was suffering from was bone-on-bone irritation, which I guess the concerning part is that it's an injury that you get when you're kind of at the latter stages of your career. Coletto's still in her early 20s. So the severity of the injury was really quite bad.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, along the way we probably didn't quite know how bad that injury was. Obviously she had the 2 arthroscopes, one on either knee, and hopefully that was going to fix the problem. It didn't, and then she went in for this obviously more severe surgery. But the way she's going now, the way she's feeling and pulling up after trainings and games, she's feeling a lot better, in a lot less pain, which is a very positive thing. And yeah, looking forward to hopefully keeping her out on court now.
Last year would have been really frustrating for her. She had to sit out the second half of the ANZ Champ. She also missed the Commonwealth Games because she wasn't ready. How did she approach that period of her time? Was she notably frustrated, or was she very quietly going about her business? How did she handle it all?
She certainly did go quiet. Went under the radar, you would have to say, in terms of with her rehab, but she certainly left no stone unturned in that rehab that she did. Every day she was morning and night doing her rehab, made sure everything was done, there was nothing left out. So people have said she was quite obsessive over it, but it's a fantastic thing. And a focus here at the Vixens really has been to make sure that we didn't rush her back too early. We didn't. She's quite frustrated she couldn't get on court for those first couple of rounds, but I think it's done her the world of good, and it was great to have her back out on court against the Fever last week.
Well, she did have to wait a long time until round 5 to get her first minutes in 2011, but it was great to see Julie Coletto back in such fantastic condition and form. Renae, the other interesting talking point was the decision by coach Jane Williams-Thompson, the coach of the Adelaide Thunderbirds, to play the league's most prolific goal shooter in goalkeeper against Romelda Aiken. What did you think of that strange coaching move?
I think there was a lot of raised eyebrows, obviously, when she ran out to start that game in the goalkeeper position, but I think why not? I think the position that the Adelaide Thunderbirds were in, coming up against Romelda Aiken, who has been shooting a huge amount of goals and has been doing a fantastic job for the Queensland, why not try something different on her? I think Borrego did a fantastic job for a half, and it probably worked for that half, but sort of lost it again in that 3rd and 4th quarter.
I guess Jane Williams-Thompson had to turn around a 23-goal losing margin, which happened in round 3. The result was 22 goals in the end. But I guess when you look at half-time, they were only 5 goals down compared to being, I think it was 16 goals down the last time they played. So I guess from that point of view, you could say that the coaching move was brave and it worked for a half like you mentioned.
Well, that's exactly right. I mean, it was a huge risk to take and it did pay off for that half, and it's hard to say whether they should have changed it at half-time or not. The combination that they had on there was working. She did hold Romelda to less goals than what she would normally be at, but yeah, they lost it a little bit after that, so maybe they needed to change it a little bit earlier. But it was a risky move, a brave move, but it paid off for that two quarters.
But in the end, it was the Queensland Firebirds too good for the defending champs, the Adelaide Thunderbirds. Let's now preview round 6 of the competition coming up. So round 6 will begin in Perth on Thursday night. Thursday night netball for only the second time in the competition. The Fever hosting the New South Wales Swifts. Saturday afternoon netball will see the Fever taking on the Southern Steel from New Zealand. 2 big games on Sunday. The New South Wales Swifts in a must-win game against the top-of-the-table Queensland Firebirds. The Central Pulse and the Canterbury Tactics both looking for their first win of the season. 2 massive games on Monday night, the Magic taking on the Vixens, and of course the Adelaide Thunderbirds playing the Northern Mystics. So, Renae, the Fever and the Swifts will play 2 games this week. 6 games all around. It should be a pretty interesting round this week.
Yeah, look, and I think there's some really exciting matchups there this week. Obviously, the Swifts will want 2 wins. They've had a couple of losses now, so their game against the Firebirds is a must-win, a very important match, and I'm pretty sure the Firebirds aren't going to want to lose that first game of theirs. So, exciting games to come.
Huge game for your side, the Melbourne Vixens. You head over to Hamilton, New Zealand to play the Magic. How are you feeling about heading into that one?
Yeah, we're really looking forward to this matchup against the Magic. We haven't beaten them over there before, so it's going to be a big challenge for us. They're coming off their first loss of the season, so might be feeling a little bit vulnerable, so it's going to be quite a good match.
Do you know where you can target this Magic lineup?
It's hard to say because it's such a star-studded lineup, but look, I think if you can knock off or at least have a great match against your Irene Van Dyke, your Langman, and hopefully stop Casey Williams from getting too many of those intercepts and deflections, then I think we're in with a chance.
Another big game on Monday night will be played in Adelaide. The defending champions, the Adelaide Thunderbirds, host the Northern Mystics. Only 2 times has a New Zealand team won in Australia. That was the Magic on 2 occasions. The Mystics have never done it. A lot of people talking about this as their best chance yet to do it.
Oh, absolutely. The Mystics are in every chance to win this game against the Thunderbirds. It's obviously very tough to take them on at home, but my tip is that the Mystics will get it this weekend.
So it's a must-win game for the Adelaide Thunderbirds. Also this weekend, it's Netball's Festival of Stars. Let's now take a look at all the details for this weekend's blockbuster. Netball's Festival of Stars will be on 10 and 1 HD at 1 p.m. The celebrity match, Beyond Blue, and of course the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So some of our best celebrities will be playing for both of those foundations. Renae, you're involved in Netball's Festival of Stars last year. You played a coaching role. It's always a bit of fun, Netball Festival of Stars, isn't it?
Oh, I think this Festival of Stars match is a great one to be involved with and to be able to watch. It's certainly not your most traditional or cleanest or prettiest netball, but it's a lot of fun to be had. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing those Bondi Rescue boys have a run around. I enjoy watching them run around the beach, so it'll be interesting to see their netball skills on show. Well,
we've also got Charlie Pickering from the 7pm Project, Natasha Balling, of course, a newsreader. Paulini's there, Kerry Pothast, an Olympic medalist. So lots of things to look forward to in the Netball Festival of Stars celebrity match.
A lot of laughs to be had too, I would think.
Certainly is. Well, Renae, that brings us to an end for our second episode here of Centre Pass. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me here, Dan, and hopefully I can be back in a few weeks and talking about a few more wins that we've had on the board.
Absolutely. Before you go, I have to ask you, do you have the ANZ Championship iPhone app?
I do. I have it, and I'm every day checking the news and Twitter app with it, and also it's great to be able to see the stats and ladders right there.
Excellent. You've also been doing some feature writing for the 1HD website. What are you writing about this week?
I have. This week, people want to know about pre- and post-game routines. So I'll be touching on that, what we do after a game recovery-wise, but also the impacts that travel can have on a team during this ANZ Championship season.
So if you want to hear all Renae's thoughts on all those topics, jump on to the 1HD website. Also, Julie Fitzgerald from the New South Wales Swifts is a feature writer as well. There's fantasy netball there as well. That's about it for today's show. We hope you can join us next week. Make sure you tune in to 10 and 1 in Australia and, of course, Sky Sports in New Zealand. Catch all the action. It's Netball's Festival of Stars this weekend. Until next time, catch you later. This podcast is brought to you by ANZ,
Holden,
Office Max,
Sky Sport,
10
and 1HD.